Hey, you made it. What's happening? It's Uncle Jake here, of course, with my friend Jeff.
Hey.
We shall be your host today, and today is something very special because you notice these two bikes back here, the Monkey and the Grom. This is actually a video in response to our community who was asking from the last video which we'll post, which we had some fun driving around, which is what are the differences? Like if you were going to buy one of these, and you're trying to decide which one, how do you know? It's actually kind of hard to figure out and find out what the differences are. But since Jeff owns both of these, this is a perfect opportunity for us to go through and talk about really what you'll find in the differences. So if we start, you want to start with, Jeff? You want to start with the Grom?
Yeah, let's start with the Grom.
Let's start with the Grom.
Well, let's do a comparison over both of them.
I like it. I like it.
You know, when my wife and I were deciding which one we wanted, she right out the gate was more attracted to the Monkey.
Okay, so at this point we're just talking about how it looks. She's
just overall looks. Her personality definitely leaned more towards the Monkey.
So that's probably what you would say is like the first main differences to consider is
I would say the aesthetics are going to be the biggest difference because
the biggest factor.
They're both 125s.
Okay, so engine size exactly the same.
124.9 cc engines.
Okay, any difference on tuning or anything like that?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay, so
exactly the same.
So as far as performance goes, just on the engine, it's the same.
Exactly the same.
Did they come with the same exhaust?
They did not.
Slightly different routed, or is it sound as well?
It's routed differently, but you can tell on the Grom. I cut the muffler off.
So this initially ran down on the bottom, and then did it just kind of come up here?
Exactly.
Okay, so that kind of came up there, and then of course on this one.
And I can't have it dragging when I'm doing right-hand turns.
When you gotta turn sharp. You gotta lean into it. You know what I'm saying? So this one runs. Wow, it like runs down and then back up in here. Now this, it does have a little bit difference. Like I don't know what that is.
That's your catalytic converter.
That's just catalytic converter. Okay, so that's got a bigger catalytic converter.
It looks like it. Yeah, but underneath, this still loops.
Oh, like, does it? Oh, okay.
Like
so it's just okay. All right.
But
so
it's just got that layout box.
Before you did that awesome modification.
Yes.
For more power. Did it sound the same?
They did.
They sound
really
the same.
Should we fire them up real quick?
Yeah, because now they're different. So if you want to hear what it sounds like,
yeah.
With that. Oh, look at that! The monkey's blinking at you.
Okay,
that's pretty awesome. Okay, so starting this, it's just one touch right here. Okay, so. Very quiet.
When you're riding it, when your RPMs are low, you can barely hear it.
Yeah,
super quiet.
That's a good point. So when you're riding these, you definitely don't have to worry about being loud or if you're starting it early or whatever with the neighbors.
Being the obnoxious motorcycle rider.
That's true. That's true. Nobody's gonna blame you or accuse you of that.
No.
Okay, so let's start the Grom up.
Okay.
Which is been modified.
The dash?
Yes, let's look at
the gauges on this. Still pretty cool.
Still pretty cool. Now that one, right off the bat, looks a little bit more, what would you say, like serious, modern? Yeah, like the Monkey blinks and it's round and kind of, you know, this one looks a little sportier too. A little more like it means business.
Honda uses this cluster on other bikes too.
Okay, yeah. So they might be familiar with that. All right. So there's the gauge. Let's fire this baby up. Same start, same way. Yeah. So noticeably louder, but still, even with that, it's still not loud. It's not like when we hear this, you're like, oh my gosh, that's loud on your ears or anything. Yeah. It's still very mellow.
And same thing. You get driving down the road, keep your RPMs low, you barely hear it.
That's awesome. Okay, so that's similar exhaust, Starts the same. Dash definitely looks different. Does this one have, does that kind of, is that your speed that tacks up Explorer shows that, or is it RPMs?
That's RPMs.
Well, that's RPMs. Does, oh, I see, okay. Does the Monkey have that?
Yeah, let's look at it.
Okay, so the fuel gauge moves. Blinking. So it doesn't have an RPM.
It doesn't have RPM gauge. Just
So-
miles per hour.
So that's something that kind of adds to the feel I think that we're going for with this one. You've got an RPM, you know, you got an attack on it. And the look is most definitely more sporty or a little aggressive on this one.
And so, some of the modifications we've done. I took, it had a similar mirrors that came up, and they were shaped a little bit different. So these are aftermarket, the handlebar mirrors. Those are aftermarket, the handguards are aftermarket, and the tires. So I put the knobbies on, because when we bring these camping, and we like to get off-road. Sometimes we're on dirt trails or dirt roads. I just wanted, this originally came with a street tire. On the Monkey, these are what's called an enduro.
And these, that came on this one.
Yes.
So the Grom, if you buy it, has a much more street, even more than this. This is, okay. Now let's talk about what enduro means. Enduro means that you'd be a little off-road, a little bit
A little off-road, both on-road, off-road. So stock from the factory, the Monkey comes set up more for, you know, maybe some gravel or dirt roads.
Okay, so if you're considering between the two, besides the looks, you might consider that this one comes a little bit more equipped with off-road. However, the question is, since you have added those tires, does this one become just as capable off-road as the Monkey?
I would say absolutely yes, maybe even a little more so.
Okay, so then you're saying that the difference is really the capability is just based on the tires.
Absolutely.
All right, I love it. So what do we talk about next? Like, what about?
Let's talk about transmission.
Transmission? Are they different?
They are exactly the same. They're both 4-speeds.
Both 4-speed transmissions. Okay, so no difference on that.
So anybody that's ridden a motorcycle is going to feel comfortable with it. It's the 1 down, 3 up transmission.
Okay. And so 1 down, 3 up means that first gear down,
First
and
gear
then
down,
neutrals up 1,
halfway up,
halfway up,
and then 3 gears up.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, actually, let's talk about this, because this will go into ride and how comfortable it is. But the shocks are noticeably different on this.
So, front shocks exactly the same.
Okay.
Same travel on the front shocks. On the rear shocks, the Monkey has the dual suspension.
Yeah. So 1 on each side,
Where the Grom is a mono.
Which kind of is another thing that really goes into looks. Do you notice any difference on like shock absorption? Like, does one feel softer than the other?
You know, it's hard to tell because the Monkey seat is so soft.
True. Yeah, that's true.
The Monkey seat is so soft compared to the Grom. It's hard to tell if it's the seat or if it's the shocks, but the travel in both the monoshock and the dual shock is exactly the same.
So the travel's the same. So it does feel softer. I agree. When you're riding this, it does feel softer. It just feels cushier. I would say there's one other factor that goes into that, and that would be the positioning that you're seated on, which is affected by 2 things, right? The seat and the handlebars. But let's finish the seat. So what's the difference on the seats?
Well, the seat, you can see the foam in this. You're probably no more than 2 inches of foam on this.
Okay, and it drops down. Obviously, the contour drops down.
It's very hard. You have the strap on this one, which makes it easy.
Yeah, and what would you do with that strap?
Well, this,
you could pick it up. So, so that's important right there too, because both of these bikes are very light and easy to hand push around if you need to. I mean, they're a piece of cake. One of the main differences, like Jeff said, depending on your upper body strength, is you could kind of pivot this one around a little bit if you needed to and kind of handle it.
Speaking of weight too, there is a slight difference in the weight. The Grom's coming in at 229 pounds,
okay,
where the Monkey is 234. So only about a 5-pound difference.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So now on these seats, so that one has a lot more padding.
This one has a lot more padding.
And you're sitting higher as well.
Yes.
So I definitely notice in that one, the seat feels more comfortable. It just, not that this one's uncomfortable, it just feels like it looks a little more sporty, a little more stiff. That's maybe not the right word. But it's just, that one's just really cushy, I think I would say.
Yes. Your seating position is definitely more upright on the Monkey, where the Grom has a more sports bike feel.
Yeah, sports bike feel.
Your weight is more forward.
And the handlebars, right?
Yeah, because of the seat
So
position.
how can we best show this? So you see how the rise on this is relatively short here, and the rise on this one is significantly taller. So why don't you actually hop up on there and sit, Jeff, and we can look at the, let's just do it this way. Let's kind of just look at the position. So if you were riding like this, pretty upright.
Very upright.
Yeah, like you're very comfortable. I would totally agree with that. Yep. Very comfortable. And again, very unassuming. I mean, people with this one wave at you a lot, right? Like just on the way here, you said there were several people waving.
Yeah, we drove, what, a half a mile, and got waved at 3 times by just people out in their front yard.
Yeah, these are really very fun. Go check out our other video that we did prior to this, where we're just driving around, and it's incredible the people that would stop and talk to you and wave. I mean, it's really a fun bike. It's just draws out a little bit of people going, whoa, what's that? That's really cool, you know?
I've had a number of bikes, and we get more attention on these little things than anything I've ever rode. They're fun.
That's awesome. Okay, so yeah, let's sit on the Grom. This will be really good. Yeah, you're still fairly upright, but you are leaning forward a little bit on this one.
Yep.
So
yeah, I can sometimes just this seat can be, after riding it even for a half an hour or so, it starts to get a little uncomfortable. So I will even pop back here on the back of the seat.
Oh, so you can get a little bit more.
Just to move around a little bit.
Yeah.
Just because it starts to get a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, I can notice that too. Now, so your center of gravity is lower on this one.
It is.
Which does affect a little bit about how it turns. Before we get into turning though, because that is an important factor, there's one other thing with the seats on this one that is a difference. What is the difference?
Well, this one is set up for a passenger.
Right.
Yeah, it's got the back pegs, where the Monkey doesn't.
Yeah, the Monkey doesn't. So that would be a factor if you were wanting to have anybody else ride. I mean, you couldn't have 2 big people on here.
No.
But you could have 2 people, and you cannot with the Monkey. There's no pegs back there, and the seat's not as long either. I mean, you can see that this seat is noticeably longer than that one. So looks. So far, we got the differences: looks, gauges, and just sort of the overall appearance. Yeah. You've got the seat, and you've got just the comfortable factor on this one. I would say so far.
I would say seat height.
Seat height, true.
The Grom is about 1/2 inch lower than the Monkey.
Right. Now, that has a factor on turning, right?
It does. Yes. Because your center of gravity is going to be lower.
Mm-hmm.
Your position is going to be a little bit farther forward. You're going to have more weight on your handlebars.
Yeah, and that really does have a factor in how it feels when you turn. So when you're physically turning the bike, there is definitely a noticeable difference. I would personally say that might be maybe the #1 difference when you're riding it, in my opinion, besides being comfortable, cushier, that's the second one. But the other one is how these feel when you turn it. So what is the difference? How would you describe the difference between these two when you're actually turning?
I think the Grom, because you're in a more aggressive riding position. When you're taking turns, it's so much fun just to get out, get the speed up, and start leaning it over. It feels like it's just naturally can handle those corners better. Your weight is more on the handlebars, so counter steer comes into play a lot more than it is with this one, where your position is up and your weight is off of the handlebars.
Okay, so Jeff just brought up something really important, which is counter steer. So if you haven't ridden bikes a lot, you might not really know what that means. So this would be an important factor to talk about. Counter steer, Jeff.
Counter steer. So this is going to be a very kind of simplistic way to explain it.
Yep, keep it simple.
When your weight is on your handlebars and you're wanting to make a left-hand turn, you would think you would push with your right hand to go this way, but a counter steer works with you push weight, pressure on your left hand, and that brings you to the left, and then just the opposite for going to the right. You push with your right.
It's almost like when you turn, the weight of the bike starts to turn itself, and so you have to kind of counter it. It wants to turn, so you just start to lean, and you actually have to, like if you're turning left, you kind of have to keep it from really wanting to turn, because if you push, you'd really crank it over. So that's kind of, you're sort of counter turning because the bike wants to turn on its own. Whereas with the Monkey, it's quite different.
The Monkey, there's still some of that, but your weight isn't on the handlebars like it is on the Grom. So counter steer may not play as big of a factor. I mean, maybe when your speeds are high, you push more to go. You could push more with your left to go left, but with this one, it's more just leaning, your body weight leaning. Counter steer, I don't think is as big of a factor.
Yeah, now personally what I would say is, depending on what you're doing, one is easier than the other, and it swaps back and forth. So just for general riding, I think the Monkey is easier to turn. I do. Until you get to corners or something like that, and then the Grom is easier. So when we were riding last time and we went into the corner around that little roundabout, we were absolutely abiding by the law and the speed limits. And when we went into it, that one was turning up to a point, and then it almost felt like it just sort of stopped. And I was like, it just won't, I had to like force the bike to turn more. It was really interesting. Whereas this one, I think it would keep going until you were scraping pegs. I really do. You wouldn't have to force it. So, but normal driving with this one though is, I don't know if I would say more work, but kind of over time. So all right, so we're really getting down here to the nitty gritties on this, but besides those things, besides the look, besides the way it feels, and the stance and the drivability, I guess, on how it is, anything else that you would say to consider when you were buying these bikes or deciding between the two?
Mechanically, engine, transmission, exhaust, brakes, suspension, identical. It really comes down to your preference,
personal preference
as to the style, the type of riding you're going to be doing. I do not think there's a better first bike than the Monkey. My wife Christy, her first bike, she's never owned a street bike before, and she feels completely comfortable on this. And she's only 5'4". It's perfect bike for her. It's not overly intimidating for her. It's been a great first bike for her.
Yeah, I think I would agree with all of that. I would say if you've ridden a bunch, grab either one, grab whichever one you like. Maybe factor in how far you're riding. I don't think you could go wrong with either one, but if you were just looking for a first bike, I would say the Monkey. Now, let me add to that neither one of these are difficult to ride. And not only that, but the Monkey, if you are experienced, it's still fun. It's totally fun. I love that bike. It's a blast to ride. So I don't think that there is such a big difference between the two that you should pick based on necessarily performance. I'd say look and a little bit about how long you want to ride it. And that's about it, Jeff. Any other closing thoughts? That's about all I've got. Range should be the same, right?
Yeah, gas tanks are within 1/10 of a gallon of each other capacity. So you're gonna go 150 miles on a tank.
Yeah, which is a pretty significant range. I mean, that's cruising. So price wise? Oh yeah, let's talk about that. So
the Grom, neither of these are ABS models.
Okay.
So there is an ABS model for both bikes. You get a few more color choices with the Grom.
Okay, let's talk about that. Yeah. So your main options are color choices.
Yeah, I think they've got four color choices for the Grom and just 2 with the Monkey. But the Grom is gonna, I believe the MSRP on the Grom is gonna be $33.99, where the Monkey is $39.99 non-ABS. When you go to ABS, it bumps it up a few $100s.
So for those who don't know, ABS, what do you get?
So this, on the non-ABS model, you have front brake and back brake. Okay. With the ABS models, they work simultaneously. No matter which one you're using. And it's not allowing it to lock up.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna get that kind of almost a stutter in your, when you brake. It's not going to lock up. It's not going to allow the front or the back to lock up and make you. So that's probably actually something to talk about on bikes. If you haven't ridden bikes, a class is not bad, because with bikes, most of your braking is done with the front brake, not the rear. So it might sound strange, but really almost a majority of this. So when you have that option, it's sort of combining the two, right? It's doing a little bit of both. That is not a bad option, especially if you haven't done it much, because braking on a bike is different. So again, a little riding class is not a bad idea at all. No. Not that you necessarily need it, but it might give you confidence. Riding classes will teach you a lot of things about braking, steering, how to lay the bike down in the event that there's an accident. It's actually some really good stuff. That turning, counter steering, like we talked about, you can get into some of that stuff. A lot of places offer free classes, but even if they don't, I think that could be a nice option. So that's a good one to consider. What's the difference on cost for that? $33.99.
Yep.
$39.99.
$39.99. And if you add that option for the brakes?
I believe it's a few $100s.
Not bad. That might be a worthwhile option.
For a beginner rider,
yeah.
Just the ease of learning. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in conclusion, both bikes are awesome. We love them. We have a blast. You will too. Everybody else seems to really enjoy these bikes. You get a lot of attention if you like. If you don't like getting waves and things, probably not the bike for you.
No.
But that's it. So I hope that answered a lot of your questions. If you're considering the two of these, they're both really fun. They're a blast. We really don't think you can go wrong with either one. If you want to get into biking, it's a wonderful way to go. So with that said, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell so you know when we're hanging out, so you get more of these awesome videos and fun. We love you very much. Have an awesome rest of your day. Have yourself a soda or what, iced tea, whatever it is you want. Come back and see us again. We're going to take you out with the fist bump of friendship. Whoop-ow. I don't know what that is, but it's like it's got handles on the little thing that almost killed me.
It's like a... A hoverboard?
Yeah.
A hoverboard with...
I have a hoverboard, but Jed tried to kill me with it. It broke my foot, and it still hurts. Like, like 2 years later.
You need a handle on it.
I think I need one of those handles. Joel, you can maybe do a really cool split screen right here or something. We had to cancel the top speed. There's a copper. He was onto us.
The fuzz was on
The
us.
fuzz was onto us. We had to take evasive maneuvers.
In a Ford.
In a Ford. I don't see him though. Did he go by?
He went by.
We've evaded him successfully. Let's get the crap out of here.